everybody. We are starting into our third month of, or we're into our third month of the Fly Tying Techniques program. And tonight we have a different type of video or program, but I think an extremely important program. So I invite you all to be involved. Ask our instructor, John Wright, lots of questions, and he's got lots of answers, I'm sure. This is John Wright, and a lot of you know him, and you've learned to really appreciate what type of a human being he is, which is awesome. He is the owner and founder of the Midlands Custom Rods Company. He's a retired Air Force pilot, 3 combat tours in Vietnam. He flew F-4s, OV-10s, and B-52s. Now, I didn't know that, John, about the B-52s. I'm impressed. Retired from headquarters SAC at Offutt. Is that it?
Offutt.
Okay.
Right here in Omaha.
Okay. In 1989, that's the same year I retired.
Yep.
And have been here ever since. Started working with vets about 10 years ago with Project Healing Waters. He was the Omaha program lead until 2 years ago. Now he's starting a nonprofit to work with vets and first responders. Started fly fishing in 1967. Never really got into it until 1977. And when he was assigned to the Air Force Academy. Started tying about 8 years ago as a part of Healing Waters. He says, I'm not an experienced tyer. I only tie about 150 to 200 flies a year. But we'll say you're doing all right, John. So with that, I am going to turn the floor over and the vice over to you.
Thank you, Rick, for those kind words. Excuse me. This is indeed an honor to be here and talking in front of a group of fly tyers as well known as you all are, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk about 2 subjects that are very near and dear to my heart. The first one, working with disabled vets, and the second one, Tenkara fly fishing. I'm going to break the program into 3 parts tonight. The first part will be a discussion about my experiences working with disabled vets. And then we'll go into a little bit on Tenkara fishing. And I'm going to wrap it up with a demonstration of one-handed fly tying, which and I'll explain why that has become so important to me. Working with disabled veterans, I started about 8 years ago when a fellow that I know real well, Dave Jacobs, was the treasurer of TU, and he heard about a program called Project Healing Waters. And he knew I was a veteran, so he asked me if I'd be interested, and I said, sure. He said, well, would you mind being the leader? And I violated a sacred oath I made when I joined the military. I just never volunteer for anything. And it turned out that I wound up as the program lead for the Omaha group, and for a while the Lincoln group for about 5-6 years. I learned a lot of things about dealing with veterans. The first thing I guess I learned was patience. A lot of the veterans that I worked with had PTSD and traumatic brain injury, and not too many of them had physical disabilities. Most of them had PTSD. We also worked with veterans who were homeless, with veterans who were in the drug and alcohol abuse program at the VA. So we had a pretty wide span of veterans that we worked with. We found that patience is the most important thing when dealing with veterans, especially those with PTSD and TBI. They don't learn fast sometimes. They are very, very meticulous about what they do, but they don't pick things up as quickly as you would think they would. For example, we've got one veteran, in fact, we still work with him. He spent three to 4 hours just trying to learn how to tie a San Juan worm. the biggest problem he faced was he kept breaking his thread. He was unable to determine how hard he was pulling on the thread. So we put our heads together and tried to figure out how we could fix that. And what we did is we went with Semper Fi, and we got him some Semper Fi thread, and we put that on, and he didn't have any problems at all after that. I don't know anybody that can break Semper Fi anyway. So, and that worked. The other thing that we learned early on was to keep things as simple as you can keep them. Simplicity is important, and that's it's important in not only teaching tying, but in teaching the actual art of casting. A lot of you have probably seen videos by people teaching fly casting, and it seems like the majority of the people have a 1, 2, 3, 4 approach to it. We simplified that quite a bit. And we simplified it for a couple of reasons. Number one, working with vets, and number two, I work with children too through with the game and parks. But what I found was when you start telling them to bring the rod up and stop at the 12 o'clock position, they said, what's 12 o'clock? We don't understand, because they had digital clocks. They've never seen an analog clock. So we started saying, okay, to your ear, to the top of the horizon and down. Basically a 3-step approach to casting. And that seems to work really well with veterans. They can pick up on that very, very quickly. And that also applies to fly tying. You want to keep it simple and move very, very slowly through your flies. Now, a lot of people ask, why fly fishing with veterans? What is it that's about fishing and fly fishing that works so well? And I'll just answer that with one simple question. I'm sure a lot of you have been out in the middle of a stream, probably someplace where it gets cold, be in the middle of a snowstorm. Now picture this. You're standing knee deep or thigh deep in a 50-degree cold water. It's starting to snow, but there's no wind. The snow is coming absolutely straight down. And it's so quiet, you can almost hear the snow hitting the water. The only thing you can hear are the critters walking around over in the forest on the other side of the bank, or the birds calling. That's the kind of thing that helps the veterans. That calm, quiet, cooling sensation of being out in the wild. It does tremendous things to them. I've seen veterans who were so nervous they were shaking, and as soon as they got into the water and started casting, they calmed down, got quiet, and just started to relax and enjoy themselves. So it's a couple of things. It's number one, you're out with Mother Nature, and you're working with Mother Nature and the water and the rhythm of the fly rod. It just is very, very therapeutic for well, not only for the veterans, but for us as well. I've found that I've seen veterans do some amazing things when they're on the water that they couldn't normally do when they're not. I've got a couple of stories that I want to tell you about. We had one veteran, his name is David, that started with us right after we first started. He had been in a severe accident and had a severe case of PTSD. He was working with the VA. He had a psychologist that they'd been working with for several years, but he just wasn't making a whole lot of progress. And he started coming to our meetings, and I'm not sure how he found out about us or what he found out. As I recall, we at the time were holding meetings at the VA Recovery Center right here at the VA Center in Omaha, and David was in the recovery program, and he started tying with us. What I remember a lot about David was how quiet he was, and the fact that his mother always came with him because she was his caregiver, and he had a dog, a service dog, that came with him. And I asked his mother once, I said, what is it that the service dog can do for David? And she said, before he has an attack, the service dog gets very, very excited and can tell us that David is about to have an attack. So the dog had the ability to determine when David was going to have an incident or a problem. So it was amazing. After about 3 years, David started tying flies with us. He started building fly rods with us. He bought all of his gear. He had a vest, the fly boxes, and he just turned into one of those kind of fly fishermen. And we were out at Halleck Park at one of our monthly outings once, and his mother came up to me about 3 years after he'd been in the program. She said, "I want to thank you. You gave me back my son." Apparently, he refused to come out of his bedroom all the time he was home, and until he started working with us. And his mother told me, she said, since you started working with him, he has come out of his bedroom. He's in the living room. He's talkative. He talks to us. She said, it's just like the David of old. And thank you. So that was a pretty heartwarming effect. I have another veteran who unfortunately just passed away. He had a traumatic brain injury due to a truck accident. And his wife was his caregiver, and he used to come to all of our meetings. And he started fly tying and had a terrible time when he first started, but he stuck with it. He, after a few years, he started actually getting very, very good at tying. So he thought he'd try rod building. And he had a lot of problems with the rod building due to his physical dexterity. And he had problems getting the rod to work, but he stuck with it. And he finally did finish his rod. And his fly tying became so good that here earlier this year, back in the spring, he was a featured tyer on one of the programs that he was in, and he had his own Zoom call, and they featured him on that. And we had about 100 people attend that Zoom meeting, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience for not only him, but for those of us that had been working with him to see how much progress he had made. So those are just a couple of things, a couple of events, and a couple of people that we've worked with that show you how important it is. And I mean, in this day and age, the number of veterans committing suicide is on the rise. The number of homeless veterans are on the rise. The number of veterans that are in the alcohol and drug abuse program are on the rise. And it's very hard for me anyway to just a minute. Sorry, I get kind of emotional when I'm talking about my vets. They need our help. They really do. I think I was at a game with my son, the last Husker game I went to in Lincoln. In fact, the only Husker game I've ever been to. And on the way in, there was a gentleman sitting on the side, and he had his cup out, and he was asking for money. And I noticed he was wearing a Vietnam hat. And I asked him, I said, "Where'd he serve?" And he told me. And he told me what organization he was in, what army group he was in. And then he saluted me. The prettiest salute I have seen in a long time. And I knew he was a vet and he needed our help. So I gave him all the money I had at that time. And I would like to see him again and see if there's something else that we can do for him. So anyway, that's what we do with veterans. And they are just unbelievable. And they, like I said, they do need our help, and they will always need our help. And that's why we're starting the nonprofit here in Omaha, to help not only the disabled veterans, but also those that are not disabled. And in my experience, any veteran that has been in the service or in a combat situation, or any first responder that has experienced traumatic events, needs help. I didn't realize that I had PTSD until I started working with the veterans and with the doctors and saw what the characteristics were. And it's not bad, but it is there. So those are our experiences with veterans. Anybody have any questions on it? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
you
like
remember I said that one of the keys to working with veterans is simplicity. When we were doing building fly rods, I was out looking for kits that I could use to build. And I came across the site. I think it was called American Tenkara. They're out of business now. And they offered kits for this thing called a Tenkara rod. And I have never heard of a Tenkara rod. So I went out and I looked at it and I contacted the owner and I said, what the heck is a Tenkara rod? And he pointed me to a couple of YouTube channels and I went out and I watched. And oh, I saw a message pop up there. It's for Rick. And I watched some YouTube videos of what it was. I said, my goodness, the ultimate in simplicity with fly fishing. I said, my goodness, it's cane pole fishing. So I bought a kit and I built that cane pole, the Tenkara rod. And I found that you talk about simplicity. You just can't get any simpler than that. And that's the Japanese philosophy of Tenkara is simplicity. And it extends not only to the rod itself, but also to the entire manner of Tenkara fishing. For example, most Japanese fly fishermen that are Tenkara fishermen, and I mean the real Tenkara fishermen, not the ones that have picked it up within the last couple of years, because it was designed and originated as a form of commercial fishing. When they go out to fish, they might only carry 2 or 3 flies, period. And if they're using one fly and it's not working, they don't change flies. They change their method of presentation. So I said, let me try that. And I did. And I started changing the way I presented flies. If one way didn't work, I tried another way. If that didn't work, I tried another. And what I found was I had a lot more success with one fly and different techniques than I ever did by changing flies and trying to match the hatch, as it were. So let me, what I'd like to do now is go through a little presentation about the Tenkara. And it's just a little short one. It's only 6 slides, I believe. But I'd like to talk for just a minute about the history, then a little bit about the equipment, and then a little bit about the flies, which I will be tying a Tenkara fly as my one-handed demo. So why fish Tenkara? As I said, simplicity, casting simplicity, tying simplicity. You'll see how easy it is to tie these flies here in just a minute. I mean, most of them only have one or two materials at most on the fly. It's also pretty inexpensive. You can buy a Tenkara rod and line for under $150, and you're ready to go fishing. That's it. You don't need a reel. You don't need anything. All you need is that rod and the line. And I'll show you those in just a minute. A little history. According to a lot of sources I have read, Tenkara is prehistoric. Now, I don't mean it's back in the era of the dinosaur, but what I mean is it was invented by people who could neither read nor write. So therefore, there is no written documentation about when or where it actually began. Most people believe, and the only written article we've been able to find is from the 1800s by an Englishman who was visiting in Japan, is that it started in the mountains of central Japan, well, of all of Japan. And it was, as I said, it was a way for commercial fishermen to catch a lot of fish in a short amount of time. And they fished for trout in the mountains over there. And apparently it must have been a pretty successful way of fishing for them because it lasted all this time. The interesting thing is a lot of people say, well, it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before, but it's actually very similar to a whole bunch of different forms. It's very similar to the method discussed in a document. I think it was written by a Greek philosopher in about 200 AD. And he described a method of fly fishing that the Macedonians were using. And it was basically some feathers tied on a hook. In my research, I also found a picture of a 14th century English gentleman. And he was a gentleman. I mean, he was wearing the knee-high pants and the funny hat and all the puffy sleeves and everything. And he was fishing with what we would call today a cane pole. There's a lot of people that a lot of different types of fishing, and it's very similar to the fishing done in Serbia, Italy, and Spain, and several others. In fact, a lot of you who were in the military probably were tenkara fishing and didn't know it if you went through a survival school. When I went through survival school and went out the whole time I was flying, I carried a little tin with me. And in that tin, the only thing I had was a daredevil lure, about 200 yards of monofilament. That was it. When I was at survival school up in Spokane, I got that little monofilament out and I went out and I cut down a tree branch. I tied the monofilament on the end of it. Oh, I also carried hooks. That's right. I forgot that. I tied a hook on it and I dug around and rooted around under some rocks and got a worm or two and caught some fish. I'll tell you what, I was the hero of my element when I brought those fish back to those the other starving guys in my squad. So it's a very, very easy way to catch fish, and it's very, very productive. Well, the equipment, as I said, the equipment's very simple. The rod is just a telescoping rod that comes in different rod flexes, described by a series of numbers. We'll get into that in just a minute. But right now, let me show you what the rods look like for those of you that haven't seen them before. I've got probably 8 rods. I don't even know anymore. And a lot of the creeks I fish on are extraordinarily small and narrow. One of them I fish on is Monroe Creek out in western Nebraska. It's in on the Fort Robb area. And that creek is not much wider than a 24-inch monitor that I'm looking at. And it's got overhanging trees all over the place. I mean, you couldn't cast a fly rod in there if your life depended on it. So this is the rod that I use right here. That thing is about 16 inches long and it expands to a 6-foot rod. And that's what I use on Monroe Creek. I just bought another rod from Dragon Tail. When you buy a rod from Dragon Tail, this is the way they come in this tube. And I can't say enough for the folks up at Dragon Tail. They have been just magnificent with me, and they're very easy to work with, very easy to talk to. And it comes like this. You can see it's got its own little sock. I'll talk about something that Bill Klumper's wife made for me in a minute. But they come with a little plug in them here to keep it from coming undone. And then a little plug here in the top. And you bring it out like so. And you can see that's pretty thin. Let's see if I can find something back at that. There you go. That's pretty thin, that rod. This little piece of string here is called a Lilith. And that's where you tie your main line onto. The line itself is a total of the length of the rod. So this rod, which is 6 feet long, I would have a 6-foot line on it. So my total casting distance is 12 feet with this rod. I also have a rod that's 14 feet long. So 14-foot long rod with 14 feet of line, I can cast out there about 28 feet, which I think most of you will agree, most of the fish today are caught at about 30 feet from shore, at least for me. Okay, this is something that Bill Klumper's wife built for me. It's a little expandable thing. What I do is I put the rod in here. You see, she put some D-rings on either end of it. I put it like this over my vest, and I carry a spare rod right there across my chest. No problem at all. Okay. Now let's talk about this flex rod number, the rod flex number. The way the way they discuss them is the rod is four different rod flex numbers: 55, 64, 73, 82. And they do have meaning. What they mean is that, and let me just move this over here there. If you look over here on this side, you can see the green on this one is 4 and the black is 6. So this is a 6-4. What that means is the majority of the flex occurs up here in this 4-foot section, and the smaller amount is here. Now, most of you know that in a standard or an American or a Western fly rod, the strength of the rod is a lot determined by the flex and where the rod actually flexes and bends. And a rod that flexes about like that 6-4 does would probably be considered a slow to a medium slow action rod. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't hold true with Tenkara. They make 6-4s that are very, very slow and very, very soft, and they make them that are very, very stiff. And the reason that they do that and they get away with that is because of the segments in it. So if they want a soft rod, they make the upper segments out of fiberglass. If they want a stiffer rod, they make the upper segment out of something else, so that it's a lot more stiff. So the bottom line is there is no real way to look at the specs of a Tenkara rod and figure out if it's a slow rod, a fast rod, or what have you. And this has been a problem, and it will continue to be a problem until the manufacturers come up with a better way of describing their rod. And one of the ways that's being proposed by Jason Kloss over at Tenkara Talk is the common sense method, which I've used in my rod building business. And that seems like a pretty logical thing to do. If you use the common sense method, that will tell you pretty much what the flex is and what it's going to feel like. Otherwise, once you find a rod you like from a manufacturer you like, and that's why I use Dragon Tail, because I know how they make their rods and I know how they work. So I always go back to Dragon Tail and I ask them, okay, is it a fast rod? Is it a slow rod? What is it? And they give me a pretty accurate description of what it is. Yeah, as I said, they don't have anything to do. Bottom line, numbers not only tell where the rod flexes the most. That's all it tells you. Okay. Rods I have. I've got about 6 rods ranging from lengths from about 6 feet up to 14 feet. And like I said, I rely on the vendor's description and purchase from only one company, and that's Dragon Tail. Okay, the fly. Yeah, this is what I'll be tying tonight. Now, this isn't the fly I'll tie. This is a Takayama Sakasa Kabari. The Takayama comes from the fact that it's done with red thread on the body, right here, and peacock curl right here on this little collar. A Sakasa Kabari can be any color, but all it is thread and hackle. That's it, nothing else. Translated from Japanese, Kabari means hairpin. I don't even know what that means. And Sakasa means backwards or reverse hackle. So a Sakasa Kabari is a reverse hackle hairpin or a dry fly, a fishing fly. All right. Any questions on Tenkara fishing or working with veterans?
Yeah, John, I think I have that same rod. I got it last year for Christmas.
Which one?
The Dragon Tail.
Oh, yeah.
However you do it.
Yeah, I
Anyways.
haven't even had it out yet. So have you tried it?
No, I haven't because I couldn't fish it all this last year because of my knees.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Well, use your other hand.
Yeah, but I'm anxious to try it. I've tied up a bunch of flies and stuff, but Yeah, they're really unique, and I have tenkara fished with other people's rods,
Yeah.
and I seem to do like 4 to 1. Uh, they'll use their fly rod, I'll use their tenkara rod, and I'll catch 4 fish more than they do with their
Yeah.
regular fly rod. And I don't know what the difference is, but it's the jig in action or whatever the heck it is. It
Oh
works.
no. Yeah, it does. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you know you're not going to cast long distances. You got a short cast, and you know you're close to the fish, so you got to be a little more careful. So I think it's a whole bunch of things that I think it's as much about the fisherman as it is about the rod when it comes to Tinkera. And yeah, I've experienced the same thing. The only time I haven't experienced that is when I'm fishing on a lake. I haven't seen a whole lot of difference fishing on a lake with the Tenkara versus fishing with a Western rod.
That's interesting because that's all I fished with a tenkara
Really?
is lakes, stillwater, yeah,
Okay.
and done well. Small lakes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but done well.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. I just love the simplicity of it. My neck started giving me all kinds of problems here a few years ago, and I couldn't even wear. You know these necklaces that we used to carry or wear with the equipment, all of our tools on it. I used to wear one of them, but it got so bad that if I put that weight on my neck, it would start to hurt me after about an hour and bother me. So I said, okay, fine. So I went with a shoulder pack. That did the same thing. So I said, okay, fine. I'll go back to my vest. So I'm back to the vest, and that didn't work either because that put too much weight on. So finally, I said, okay, I'm going to stop doing all of this. And now the only thing I go out with is I still go out with a vest, but it's a lightweight nylon vest, and I carry two small fly boxes about that big. And they may have 6 or 8 flies in it, just so that when the fish eats the fly I'm using, I can replace it.
Yeah, if you guys haven't tried it, you should. It's
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that dismiss it as that's not fly fishing.
yeah.
Actually, it's the original fly fishing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So
Anything else? All right, then. Let me go into a demonstration of one-handed fly tying. And this will not be an example of how to tie a tenkara fly. What I'm going to do if I may not even have it probably won't turn out very well. But I'll try my best to tie the best fly I can with one hand. But I just want to show you some of the techniques that I have developed, and I've been working with Al Beatty on this too, and some of the techniques that he and I have developed together and collaborating with it of how to get things on the fly and how to tie the materials on. One of the things I found early was you got to start at the beginning. And I hadn't really given that too much thought until I started to tie my first fly and I got my bobbin out and it was not threaded. I said, oh my. I said, do I cheat and use two hands? I said, no, that doesn't do any good. So I had to come up with a way to thread my vise. Okay. So here's what I came up with. Okay, here's my vise, or thread my vise. I mean, thread my bobbin. What I'm going to do is I've developed these right here. That's just an alligator clip with I think that's a 3/8 inch flange bolt with a magnet tied to the base or glued to the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out a little bit. I'm going to grab it with this. Okay, now I got it. Now I'm going to move it over to my vise. Let me change cameras. There we go. Okay, you can see it's right here. I'm going to move this camera a little bit. I'm going to have to do a lot of camera work tonight, and so please bear with me. Okay, I'm going to move this down so that the bobbin is touching my desk. There we go. Now, if I can find my what did I do? Knock it on the floor. Oh, yep, I did. I knocked it on the floor. Okay. I think you all know what this is. It's a bobbin threader. Get my glasses on here. So I'm going to thread the bobbin. There we go. Grab the thread. There you go. You can see that and push it through and pull it out. Okay. Now, before I finish threading it, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to take these, which are just, you've all seen these. These are test clips that we use in electronics. And I'm going to grab that thread right there, just like that. And I'm going to put this right there. Now, I'm going to pull my bobbin or my threader out. Oop, grabbed it too high. There we go. Okay. And now I'm going to grab it. Okay. Let me move this down a little bit again. Do a little focus here. There we go. So the thread's coming out of the bobbin and it's hooked on right here. So now I've got my bobbin threaded. So I can take this and lay it down. And you'll see in a minute why I wanted to put this guy on right here. Now, if you'll notice, this right here, this is a piece of steel that I put on. All of these are magnetized. And this right here is a power supply from a PC. I was looking around the other day to try and find something that was magnetic, that was narrow and short, but yet that I could use to tie flies with. And that's what I came up with. So not everybody's going to have one of those, but I'm sure we could find something else. So now the next question is, how do I get the hook in the vise? Okay. So back over here, let me bring my hooks over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a hook out of here. And I'm going to put it on. Oops, I just dropped the hook. Okay. Do this. Okay. This is a magnet that I've got that I glued onto a popsicle stick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and get rid of it. I'm going to pull this out like this. Now I want the hook to go in the vise like we normally do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to grab that same, there it is. The same thing. Bring this over here. I'm going to grab that hook right there, just like that. All right. Okay. Going to bring it back over to the vise. Going to move this camera again so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. I'm going to take this, put it right there, turn this around, and push that out a little bit. There we go. I'm going to move this guy over to here. Move him down. Vise is open. There we go. Oh. There. And lock the jaws. And there you go. Now, the reason that I put this other alligator clip or test clip on the end of my thread is because I need to put tension on the thread in order to get the thread on the hook. So with that thing sitting on the ground, you can see here, I've got tension. So I'll take 1, 2 forward, and now I'll start wrapping backwards. And see how easy that is? So what you have to do is you have to think ahead to what you want to do before you do it. Plan ahead, as they say. Cut that off. And there we go. So let me move this a little bit. There we go. And I apologize for not having a decent background up here, but I just don't have the space to get it all done and still be able to see what I'm doing on the video screen. Okay, next. I can get rid of, put these back in the box. By the way, for those of you that didn't see last Friday's demo, this is my new storage system. And I'm using a TMC 100 number 10 dry fly for this tonight, if you're interested. Okay, so now I got to get a feather. So I got a pretty nice hen, I think this is hen. It looks like a hen. So I'm going to grab a feather off of this. And let me see here. How's that one? Yep. Well, that's two. Let me see here. I found that getting feathers off of the neck can be a little bit of a challenge. I'll grab down here. Now, I'm going to put my small finger on the neck, and then just pull up. And now I've got a feather that I can use to tie. But I got to get rid of all this stuff, this fuzzy stuff. So how the heck am I going to do that? Okay, well, I'm going to grab my trusty little magnet thingy here. Put this down on the table like so. And I'm going to grab it where I want to cut it. Right there. I'm going to put it back on the post. I go back to my vise. All right. So there it is right there. Now I'm going to turn it the other way because I'm right-handed. I'm going to cut this off. There we go. Now, I want to leave a lot of bare stem. This is the side that's going to be wrapping toward. So I'm going to clip a little bit more off of that than, there we go. Okay. And I don't need all of that hook, so I can just get rid of some of it. All right. Now all I'm going to do is take this thing, rotate it around. Oops. I'm losing it. So let me just put it down here. We'll do the same thing that I did a minute ago. Yeah. Having trouble getting a hold of the racus. There we go. Okay. Now I should be able to just tie that in. Put a couple of wraps around it just to hold it in place for now. Okay, and remove that. Tie it back. There we go. Okay, I'm going to want to stop that wrap right about there. So now I need to bend this feather because I want these things to bend forward. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my hackle pliers and start wrapping. And I'm going to have to move this back out of the way, which is the other reason I like that, because it's portable. I can move it. Let me get this out of the way over here. There we go. Notice I'm wrapping forward on the hackles as I come backwards. And I'm wrapping front to back on this. Now, these are fairly sparsely hackled flies, so. Ooh. And that is a problem that I've found. Tying one-handed, you have a tendency to put a little bit too much pressure on it, and the rake breaks.
Are all tenkara flies dry flies?
No, they're not. In fact, they're wet flies. They're a soft hackle, I guess would be the best way to describe them. Okay. Let me just tie this down. Back here a little bit. There we go. Okay, that. Get this out of the way because I don't want to cut my thread. I want to hang on to that with one hand and then there with my fingers, and then come up here. There we go. Nope. And I would just bring this forward a little bit. Okay, I can see I've got some stragglers here I'm going to have to clean up. Okay, a couple more wraps in there. All right. Now I'm just going to wrap it backwards, back toward the bend. I'm going to build just a little bit of a taper. I see I still got one spurious. There we go. In there. And this is 70 denier, so it's takes a while to build a taper in it, but I'm not going to spend the time and bore you with that. You all know how to do that. Okay. Yeah. The next step is to tie this guy off. Now, if I was going to make it a Takayama, oh shoot, there we go. Sorry, a Takayama Sakasa Kabari. At this point, I would add the hackle or the peacock hurl right here. Put it in. Okay. Now the half hitch. I do them by hand. And all I have to do is you bring it up and over. Then let the bobbin take it down. Up and over. And I usually put 3. Okay. And there is a one-handed Sakasa Kabari. Any questions?
That's amazing.
Do you have a weighted bobbin?
No, I don't. Just a standard old Wright bobbin.
I'm just thinking an auto bobbin from Norvise would help tremendously, because when you start to get a little excess line out, like you did a couple of times, that would take care of it. Aha, you got it. Okay.
I have never mastered this thing, so it's something I've got to. When I get time, I'll sit down and do that. When I'm not building window or repairing windows or doing something in the house for the wife. So
Yeah, I think that would help an awful lot. But that was impressive, John.
well, thank you.
John, a quick question for you.
Yes.
Have you ever used the official Project Healing Waters one-handed kit from Everest, Washington?
I'm sorry. What's that again?
The Everest, Washington one-handed tying kit.
Oh, the evergreen hand?
Yeah.
Just a second. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was my last topic of the evening.
Yeah, I was going to ask too.
Yeah.
Yep. Good question. Great lead in, guys. Thank you.
One of the guys that
checks in the mail.
one of the guys that started up doing the evergreen hand, he said the easiest way to learn how to do this is to tie your one hand to your belt loop.
And that's exactly right.
That's a great idea.
Either that or sit on it.
Yeah, we've never had to deal with the physically handicapped vets, but our club is primarily, it's basically built from the ground up by disabled vets, PTSD, and I've seen some wonderful things happen.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Some
God. Yeah.
fantastic things happen.
Okay, there is the evergreen hand. Now it's, let me adjust this a little bit. It comes in several pieces. This part right here replaces the power supply that I used. And you see there's the, oop, can't see it.
There.
This is the piece like I've been using. And this one is kind of interesting. This is a tool they developed to grab hair off of deer hide. And I've never mastered this. So I don't know how it works. So, but you can put these down in the, let me show you this. There you go. There's this little hole right here. These go in there like so. And now you've got someplace to put them. This right here is really great for you putting muddler minnows in there and pulling them through and then grabbing a hold of them and putting them up on the vise. The vise I'm using on this is a Peak, which is my second favorite vise. The one I used tonight was a, yeah. Can't think of his name right now, but Bill Klumper's got
It's
one
a
too.
Nirvana, John.
Huh? Nirvana.
Nirvana.
Yeah.
Original.
Original. Yeah. So yeah, that's the evergreen hand. These are still available and they're available for free. You'll have to Google them, but they are out there. The only caveat is that it's for truly disabled people, and I think you have to be a member of a club or a group that's recognized by the folks at Evergreen, and you have to order it through the group. So
Now, those hair clips from
no, these are from the dollar store just up the
Okay.
street.
The original vise had a clamp on the base that you could lock stuff into.
Yeah,
Feather or something. I'm
yeah,
surprised.
it did
took
right
that off.
here. Yeah, right here where this is. Let me turn this down
Yeah.
again. Right here where this is.
Yeah,
There was an
Yeah.
insert that went in here, and then there was another little round one over here,
right.
and it was on an eccentric wheel kind of thing, and you'd put your thing in here and then clamp it down, and then you had something to pull on.
Hmm.
But for some reason, they took it off of this model, and I've asked them why, and I've never gotten a response from them. So,
Probably expenses.
yeah, that's probably right. Yeah. Anything else?
Well, that evergreen hand system, they made a deal with or got involved with Boeing, and the engineers at Boeing actually did a lot of the machining and using the to build those tools for them.
Yeah, I think I read that, Jim. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thought that went into this. There's a YouTube video out there that talks about it, and they spent a long time developing this. And most of the stuff that's here that I use tonight is basically the same kind of thing that they've used here. I mean, using the magnets as the second hand, it's just
Yeah.
that's. I think once you understand what the magnets are doing, and the fact that you need to find some way of substituting for that second hand, the rest of it kind of falls into place. Then you just have to find the tools and the equipment and make some modifications to your normal ordinary stuff so that you can do it. The one thing I have found tying one-handed tying is you got to be really meticulous about where you lay your tools down. I have a tendency to lose a lot of tools when I'm tying with one hand. I knock them off the table and I get them all over the place and I knock them into the trash can. And I don't know why that happens when I'm one-handed tying more than with two-handed. But the nice thing, and let me tell you why I got in, why I this is so important to me. We were doing a tying class at the VA in Lincoln. And we had about, I guess, 15 or 20 veterans in there. And a guy came in and he said, I can only use one hand. Can you show me how to tie flies? And I said, oh, I don't know. Because at that time, we didn't. I mean, I had never considered one-handed tire. And the more I thought about that, I thought, boy, this is going to be impossible. I don't know how you can tie with one hand. So when I got home that night, I did some research and went out on Google and I found this evergreen hand. And I got a hold of the folks at Healing Waters and I said, hey, do we have these? And they said, yes. And they sent me one. And I got another one as the program lead. And that's when I started getting used to one-handed tying. So, and this would be used for our nonprofit too when we get there, because we're going to be dealing with not only disabled veterans but also first responders who may have disabilities, as well as any severely injured individual. So we're kind of expanding our base of people to help more people than we have traditionally.
Say, John, have
Yeah.
you? I know they've developed some other tools, other devices that can be used for the physically handicapped, actually in fly fishing itself. And can you just briefly introduce us to some of the things that are going on?
Yeah, especially, well, with the artificial legs and things like that, it's actually doesn't really impact fly fishing too much. I've seen people, I grew up in the 50s and I remember people that were paraplegics that couldn't get out of a wheelchair. And remember those old spindly wheeled wheelchairs? Well, I'll tell you what, I saw a wheelchair when I was down at Bennett Spring that a veteran had, and the thing looked like a tank. It had tank treads on it, and he drove that thing right into the river. And he fished from his chair in the river. He was getting out almost as far as everybody else was. And the thing about it is, not only did it have a tank tread, but it had hydraulic lifts on it, so he could lift it up. So he was at the same height as everybody else. It was phenomenal. They also make devices for one-handed fly fishing and fly casting. I've got one someplace. I don't know where it is right now, but it makes it very simple. What you basically do if you catch a fish, you set the hook. It's kind of like a portable rod holder. You put it in, and then you strip. And what you do is you strip, and then put it in your mouth. Strip, put it in your mouth. And that works really, really well. I've seen a lot of guys catch a lot of fish like that. So there's a lot of devices that are out there to help people that have lost hands and arms in to fly fish, to substitute for those hands and those arms to help you fly fish. Because yeah, I thought about that when I first started with veterans. I said, my God, how do you cast? I said, casting with one hand is no problem. And that was a part of the reason that I went to the Tenkara rod for veterans, was because all of those one-handed problems are now solved. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have to reel it in. You don't have any, in fact, you don't have any way of retrieving the line. You've got to bring it in with the rod. And then hopefully you have a buddy with you with a net. He can land it for you. Or the line is heavy enough, you can just pull it up on the shore if you're not fishing too light of a tippet. So
it's amazing what the human soul can come up with if they want to do something bad enough.
Oh,
we'll figure it out.
It is. I mean, necessity is indeed the mother of invention, and especially when it comes to disabled veterans. I mean, you see some of the commercials for wounded warriors, one leg skiers, one arm skiers. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And where there's a will, there's a way. Yep. And if anybody would like more information, I don't have too much information on one-handed fishing. Like I say, we haven't had an occasion to use it. That's something else I got to look into. And how do I? Maybe the next time I'll do a demonstration of one-handed casting and retrieve. So when I figure out how to use the devices.
John, I've always operated under the idea that if you can imagine something, then it's possible.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I say, if you can think of it and imagine it, it's not impossible.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. American ingenuity has been, that's what's made this country great. And that's what will continue to make us great.
Yep, exactly.
There's a thing called David's chair, which is similar to what you were talking about. That wheelchair with a tractor treads on it. I was able to use one out hunting because I'm kind of numb from the knees down.
Oh, yeah.
And you did have to you were limited there. The battery is about 6 inches up off the ground. So you can get them up higher, but that was made for a guy by the name of David. He had muscular dystrophy and he was an ex-service, I think, but it's davidschair.com. They do have you can look it up.
I'll tell you what, I mean, the one that I saw at Bennett Springs was just, man, it was phenomenal. I was amazed. When I was out with Game and Parks earlier this year, the Game and Parks division here in Omaha or in Nebraska has purchased 3 of those for disabled fishermen that want to go fishing or disabled hunters that want to go hunting. And so if you want, you can get a hold of Game and Parks and I don't know how it's done, but you can probably reserve one and have it delivered to you and everything else and use it. So.
Yeah, I think that David's chair, they've got about 13 of them distributed around the country. Okay. Several of them are on the West Coast here, on the beach area.
Yeah.
And it's free. You don't have to pay for them. They maintain them, and you do have to go and pick them up, or somebody has to. But they come with a trailer and a charger, a generator, a charger, and it's really a wonderful program.
It's a wonderful program. Yeah, It is.
Say, John, I got a question for you here from John O'Shaughnessy.
Okay.
He asks, what's the structure, and he says of the organization. So I'm assuming it's Healing Waters, and also the funding.
Okay, well, Healing Waters itself is structured as a 501c3 nonprofit. When I was a member and I first joined, it was still being run by Ed Nicholson, who was the founder, and it was an all volunteer group. Nobody was paid anything. About 6 years ago, they started hiring executives to start running the program. And when that happened, it changed the flavor of the program for me. It started being more about fundraising than it was about the veterans, I thought. Personal opinion only. Currently, most of their funding comes from grants and large corporate donations. I think they currently bring in somewhere around $3 or $4 or $5 million a year from corporate type donations. I know the local units have been limited to how much money they can raise, and for local use, they can only raise $5,000 per year for local use. Everything else now that they raise has to go to the main headquarters. So that just wasn't my cup of tea. So, like they say, you can, if you can't support an organization, there's plenty more just like it. So, I mean, it's a great organization. Don't get me wrong. I still work with Mike Kelly on with Project Healing Waters, and we do our Thursday night Zoom with Healing Waters vets and with Platte River Veterans Fly Fishermen's vets, and now with our new nonprofit. So, yeah, for Mike and I, it's about the veterans. It's not about the organization.
Yeah, when we started Glacier Country Fly Fishers, we looked at Healing Waters, and we actually were accepted as a Healing Waters unit.
Uh-huh.
And then got to looking into it a little bit more and found out about the fundraising. And then we found out also that we were very family oriented. Our vets wanted their families involved.
Yep.
And Healing Waters has a different philosophy on that. And our board of directors and our membership decided that we would not accept the offer to be a Healing Waters organization. And just primarily because of that fact. But like you say, it is a great organization.
Yeah.
And it has done lots of good.
Yes, it has. It certainly has. And yeah, we found the same thing here. Our veterans wanted to bring their families, and we basically ignored Healing Waters and let them bring them to our outings. It's rather ask forgiveness than permission. But yeah, and that's So that's why we're starting our own. They also were opposed to any kind of fishing except fly fishing. I mean, if I wanted to bring in some traditional, spin fishing or spin casting fishing, and they were just violently opposed to that. So
That's too bad.
yeah.
Say, well, we got a shot here. Evelyn, did you happen to scratch down a few things on a piece of paper for us? Let me highlight you.
2 flies with notes.
There we go.
Oh yeah, hey, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That looks perfect.
Yes,
Thank you.
Perfect. Autograph that and send it to John.
there you
Okay.
go.
Thank
Hey,
you, Evelyn.
John.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
John,
I really appreciate that.
Yes, for sure.
Hey, John, this is Jeff. I got a go ahead, Evelyn.
Oh, I'm trying to go out. Somebody's got to take me off.
Rick's got to do that.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Hey, John,
Okay.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
If this is for John, if do you have or can you use some bait casting or spin casting lures?
I work with the Nebraska Game and Parks and their youth fishing instructor program. And every year we have 2 or 3 sessions of rod repair. And Larry Pape, who runs the program, usually has more donations of fishing lures and fishing rods than you can believe. I probably got more spinning lures than you have.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's why I kept them and why I'm going to use them. I'm going to use them in this new program that we're starting.
Okay.
Thank you, though. It was a generous offer.
I got you. Thank you. Not a problem.
All right. Any other questions or comments for John before we start wrapping up?
Great presentation as always.
Awesome.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And I hope you learned something. I did. I always do.
Yeah, you bet, John.
It was good. That was good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is there any way to get a repeat of this program?
That's exactly what I was looking for, John. I've been
sorry.
wanting to do this for a couple of years, and
You would like to know if we can do a repeat.
Yeah,
Yes.
It really is. It's
Can this
fantastic.
be rerun?
Yeah.
Hey, this is the second time I've done it. So, yeah, I think we can do a repeat. Did it for my own Zoom channel 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to be for Al Beatty after the first of the year, too.
Yep.
Hey, John, this is Sean from Murphy. Is there a way I can get a copy of your link for your healing waters or your tying nights?
Oh, saltwater fly fishers?
Yeah.
You want to attend our... I'll tell you what.
There's his email address in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay.
Send me.
I'll email you tomorrow.
I'll put you on our list.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, and Mike and John and everybody seems to get some pretty top-rate people on there. They do a great job, and it's well worth devoting some time on Thursday evenings for that.
Yeah, this Thursday we've got a guest speaker coming in from Colorado. Bill, do you remember who it is?
Wasn't it Tim Jacobs?
Tim Jacobs is
Yeah.
going to be.
He's doing bath bugs for us, and he does a phenomenal job. And he's a former instructor, and our classes may run a half hour over because Tim will want to work with you and teach you everything he knows about working with deer hair. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I want to get him on here as well, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, he I keep getting requests for deer hair all the time, so I think he'd be the guy to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
That hair thing that you showed,
Yeah.
the deer hair thing, a safety pin type of situation might work where you could one-handedly undo the safety pin and then put through to capture the hair around that. And then I didn't know if that device was built that way or not, but
Yeah, let me see here. Let me go back to my Vice camera and I'll show it to you opened up.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. See it? It's open. There it is.
Yeah, so if you just captured then with that openness, and then that could pull the hair up straight out of away from the rest of the hairs.
Oh,
You're in there, close it up, and then once you got it closed, you push this up.
Oh,
See
yeah.
that would work good.
Yeah.
And I figured out how to use that part, but then what I can't figure out is how do you clean out the tail end? How do you stack it and get it out of the stacker? Solve one problem and you get another.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
John, that electrical black clip that you were using to hold the thread.
I'm sorry, the what?
The black electrical clip that you were using to hold the thread.
Yeah.
All right. I have been looking for, and I haven't found any, to find one of those that had a much bigger hook on it, maybe an eighth of an inch or maybe even bigger than that, where you could capture hair.
Usually you get those at Radio Shack.
Well, I
Yeah.
haven't been able to find any big ones.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got-
they do make them in a bigger size,
Do
but
they?
I don't know if it's big enough.
Yeah.
Or just something you could grab hair with and snip it.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, John, thank you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. I personally appreciate it. And yeah, let's do this again.
Okay.
Okay. We'll be in contact long before next season, but and just you're on my list.
Okay.
You're in trouble.
I'm going to fire you off an idea, John, that I saw. I'm going to fire you off an idea. May be helpful.
Okay.
All right. All right. With that, then let's go ahead and do a couple of other things real quick, and we'll call it an evening. So, good night, John. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
All right.
Thank you.
Real quick, I got to do my recruiting stuff for Jim, or he'll talk to me by hand probably. Anyway, so if anybody's been on the call tonight that doesn't belong to Fly Fishers International and doesn't even know what it is, it's a well worth organization. We'd love to have your participation. For more information, go to www.flyfishersinternational.org, and you can find just about anything that you could ever wanted to know about this organization. What's great about it is everybody's involved because we're all like-minded fly fishermen and women. Lots of benefits available. And then, if you tie flies, you might as well join the fly tying group at the same time. We are movers and shakers, and we're doing lots of really good things for fly tying, and everybody's going to benefit from that. And one of these is this program that we do, along with a lot of other things. So if you have a mind and you'd like to be involved with this, we'd love to have you. And then I had a question earlier about are these videos available? Yes, they are. Takes me a couple of weeks after the presentation's done, but I'll turn them into YouTube videos, and you can find them at youtube.com/@fed5flyfishers/playlists. And when you go to the playlist, the very first group you see is Fly Tying Techniques. And you will find Season 1, Season 2, and now starting Season 3 on there. It's well worth it. You can review anything that you missed, play around and tie with the instructor at the same time, and you're in your leisure. So it's well worth it. I'm starting to see a lot of activity on the channel, so that's good. That means you guys are going and checking it out, and we appreciate that. And finally, who's up next? On the 16th of December, we have Rick Pasick from Canada. And if you were on last year, Rick did a presentation for us. That was awesome. He is a great fly tyer, great fisherman, fly fisherman. And this time he's going to be covering wet fly tying techniques. And I think Rick is going to be on the Omaha group in the near future sometime,
Yep.
if I recall.
Yeah, he's on the group too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done us, I think, once before.
Yeah. So anyway, Rick always brings some really good stuff to the program. He's got a great sense of fly tying, and he likes to borrow from the old English style type flies and that sort of thing. So it's always a real education to watch Rick. So with that, are there any other questions, concerns?
Mm-mm.
If not, well, I'm going to bid you all good evening. Thank you for your time. It is really appreciated. And I'll see you on the 16th. Take care.
16th. Ciao.
Night, everybody.